Give you my last dollar for that Gucci sweater. Trade my soul for gold, Staying hard for plush leather. You know it's better when cold weather. Whether or not we dodge this poverty like Mayweather. See, it's cool. What's for your homies? Let me break your back in a second. What's for your homies? What's for your homies? What's for the homies? What's for the homies?
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. Attacks by the undead have been reported in several states across the country.
All right, let's bow our heads. God, I thank you for bringing us together today. Um, Thank you for traveling mercies. I pray that we have successful recording, that we meet the need as far as for public demand, and not only that, but to speak the truth. So, God, our tongue, our heart, and our minds. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love that you started with a prayer. Like, what a way to set the intention, you know?
Yeah, no, it has to be that. That's Purple M.I.C, okay? So first I want to say thank you, Bianca, for coming. Welcome to the Purple M.I.C Music and Civics. We are here to talk about retaliation by proximity. We have been seeing all of that. Especially on the 4th. It's been crazy in DC. Everything has been circulating. Not only that, but I would say it's just everywhere. It's just been a lot of civil unrest, unnecessary killings. But yeah, I want to bring that to the mic today. But first, I have to introduce Bianca Jones. Man, we go way back, all the way back to the Howard days. She's an educator, a vocalist, a songwriter, just amazing all around, and a great sister. Anything you want to say to the people?
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk and be on a platform that is expressive of things that me and you are both passionate about. I'm happy to be on a platform with someone that I care about very deeply, one of my closest friends. It kind of feels like deja vu.
Hey, oh, I see what you did there.
But yeah, no, just like to be adults and like navigating the same spaces and to still, be growing together. Like that's an amazing thing. So I'm excited to talk today about our topic. I think that it's important that everyday people, get serious about what's happening in the world, that everyday people can see people that look like them, and can just find people that are speaking about what's happening. I think a lot of what's happening in the world is set up to give us fear. And while we talk in the vein of you praying, God has not given us a spirit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important that people know that there are people that see what's happening, that want to encourage people to be encouraged in the midst of the foolishness that's happening, people that want to educate people in the midst of what's happening. And I love the fact that Purple M.I.C is a platform that does it through music and civics. I think that's just a really great way to connect with people, because everybody can really, relate to those things. Everyone has access to those things. So I'm excited to be here and to just talk with my good sis today. Thank you for
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna just jump right into it. Rip the Band-Aid off, if that's cool. So I have my first question would be, what does proximity become? When does proximity become a form of power? What does that look like to you? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think that a lot of systems are set up in a way to make people feel like they have to be a part but still powerless at the same time.
Mm.
I think that can happen in a wealth of different places. I think a place, that comes to mind for a lot of people is just like their workspaces. Feeling like you can't say certain things, you can't do certain things, you can't challenge certain people, you can't bring certain topics or experiences to the forefront. And I think that people try to exert power over people. I think people are afraid of truth. I don't think that people want the truth to be told. I think that there are people that know that truth is not being told, but they are afraid to speak out against that. And I think that when we're talking about, proximity, And retaliation, like those are tactics that are put in place to keep people quiet. It's unfortunate, you know, and I think sometimes it's sad because there are some people that are in the midst of this and they don't even recognize what's happening and what's going on around them, right? But I think that, you know, it's a tactic, you know, that goes into propaganda that's been going on for a long time. I think that we're kind of in a place as a people in a society where like people are finally waking up and like challenging propaganda and challenging, you know, these rules and traditions and customs that say that you're not supposed to challenge or you're not supposed to speak out or you're not supposed to say X, Y, and Z about X, Y, and Z. But I think that people make you feel like you are powerless or want to make you feel like you're powerless and you can't defend yourself or advocate for yourself. But that's not, you know, necessarily the truth. Like people can
Yeah.
try to instill fear in you. But you know, at the end of the day, it's like when you know who you are and who you serve, you really just kind of gotta walk with that, you know, and just know that you'll be protected no matter what happens.
You know, like to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, like you know my whole story and like environments that I survived. And like one of the major things that you pointed out, as far as like a form of suppression is like, well, I thought of it, but a tactic would be used as dangling livelihood. And that's where people kind of get caught up in speaking up, because they're afraid of losing everything. But when you're in that kind of environment, you already lost everything. You just have to kind of be okay with like understanding that what's been presented to you is a facade to begin with. And like by surviving certain aspects of corporate America, I remember sitting in meetings where, you know, you could hear your coworkers or whoever like talking about grievances. But when we finally had the opportunity to say something in a mic, to administration or whoever is in leadership, like it's so interesting watching people kind of fall back. Um, it's like it's a hard thing with me trying to like explain it, but it's um
It's like people make the space for you to speak, but they don't actually want you to speak.
yeah, they don't want you to speak at all. It's kind of crazy, but when you do have like the folks that are willing to do that, then they're like fired or kind of pushed out. And like I've been pushed out in a way, you know, I left on my terms.
Yeah.
We're just gonna say that.
Yeah.
But it's just so interesting, like you threaten their sense of power, but it's built off of a false ground anyway, because if you have to enforce any kind of a oppression, then it's not really a place of growth. So yeah, I think people just need to finally reach a space of understanding like this is not going to end for you anyway. So you might as well go ahead and jump head first into doing what you really want to do.
Yeah.
Speak up, basically.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any like, I guess, do you have a situation where you had to speak out for other people or yourself in the work environment?
I would say not to your extent, but I do feel like oftentimes, you know me, so I feel like a lot of times I'm
Yeah.
always kind of like the Lone Ranger, kind of speaking from the perspective of point of like, okay, well, what about this? Or like, did
Mm-hmm.
you consider this? Or like, is this really fair? Does this actually make sense? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm always kind of like on an island when it comes to like real conversations. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's just kind of part of who I am. Like I'm in the horoscopes. I'm not gonna lie. I know one things with Libra, like we're really like social justice focused. So like
Mm-hmm.
to me, like being fair and just like making sure that everybody's represented is always important to me. Um, I mean, I had an experience actually yesterday with that. I won't necessarily go into detail, but um, I work with children and I work with young adults. And oh, actually, you know what? I can give an example. So I'm an educator and I work in DC. Very political place. Alex, you from here, so you know.
Yeah.
Um, one thing, so one non-negotiable I have as a music educator is that I am not doing a Christmas concert. I don't care who asks. I don't care what you say. I don't care why. Because I know that I have children in my school that do not practice Christianity, that do not celebrate Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. I'm going to sing in a Handel's Messiah, like, love Christmas. However, I'm never going to be a teacher that's going to put my students in a place where if they're not comfortable or if their family say that they cannot do something, now you got to sit on the sideline while everybody else in the school is doing the thing. I've had I haven't had like serious conversations, but I've had like administrators make comments and say things, and I was just like, we having spirit weeks for 2 weeks. Like they're gonna get their Christmas some kind of way, but they're not gonna get it in a school wide event where I have to ostracize students for the sake of keeping up tradition. So I would say I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like a real example for me. But that is like something I will die on that hill of like I have staff workers, or coworkers that are like, Muslim and like they wear hijabs and then like their students go to my school. So even if I don't know that students are practicing or don't practice, I have coworkers in the space that I know do not celebrate. Why would I have a school-wide event that's going to ostracize certain people in my school community? Like that just doesn't make sense. And for the sake of tradition, like I'm not doing it. And yeah, that's a hill I die on. And I put on a very good event for children. Like the programming, the concerts, like that's my thing. But I don't believe in doing things that are going to separate children and not allow everyone to have the same experience. And
I think it.
I
Oh,
was
go
gonna say
ahead.
that I think that the thing to me that's interesting is like, like as a black person, we have been ostracized and separated enough. So I'm not going to create an experience that now separates my kids from not being able to have the same experience. My bad. I can talk about that all day, but
Oh no, no, I was gonna add to it. I think it's more than just that. I think it's arrogance. And I say that because like why do you feel one belief is greater than the other?
yeah.
And like it's just a lack of humanity and understanding of different people groups and traditions. And
Yeah.
one thing that I learned from studying under Kirk Whalum was like it's like you kind of got to have a huge understanding of different cultures in order to be well versed as a person. And by omitting that and having a pro Western mindset, you're robbing yourself the opportunity of having a greater understanding of the world. So, like, that's just, I don't know, that I think that's just adding to your point. I think it's kind of hard to enforce something like that when we have a government that is pushing nationalism. So, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really know what the steps would be outside of us just standing 10 toes, just like, how you're doing. But yeah,
Well, I think
I
the
don't
thing
know.
like that church and state conversation is like people like to pick and choose when they enforce it. And my thing is like what I'm doing in my personal life, like if I go to church, if I'm celebrating Christmas, that has nothing to do
Hmm.
with the kids that I'm teaching. And being able to separate the two things, like I'm not their parent, I don't get to make that decision for them. And I think sometimes when you get on a moral perspective or even a religious perspective, people have a really hard time drawing the lines. And it's like you can believe what you believe without feeling like it has to be forced on other people. And like you said, it's just like you honestly rob yourself too of feeling like your experience is the only valid experience.
But it kind of reflects like the work environment. Like I know I talked about this a couple episodes ago where, they try to weaponize like emotion and like um it's like what you're saying. Like I'm enforcing this for okay, so all right, let me slow down. Let me try to figure out how to say it in the right way. Um I think it's interesting how I'm gonna use the workplace as an example, how they could weaponize emotions and like religion just to get what they want out of people. So it's the same thing that's going into like the school systems and like our government too.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone. But I'm gonna ask the next question.
Okay, cool.
Um, why do institutions often protect access instead of safety?
I mean, I think once they feel like people have the free reign, they are not necessarily safe anymore. And I think sometimes they
Say it
understand.
again.
Okay, let me reword that. I think institutions try to like manage and navigate people in a way because they feel like once they give people too much free reign, now they don't have safety. So it's almost like I'm gonna
Mm,
put parameters on you, so you don't put
yeah.
parameters on me.
Okay.
Now I think that I think some parameters are put in place for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes other ones, it's like, no, you're trying to protect you. You're saying it's to protect us, but at the end of the day, your interest is always to protect you and your institution.
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be a better way to navigate both. But I think it's interesting. A lot of times, it's like institutions will do a level of protecting the constituents, but then once it gets to be a certain level, it's like they're like, I can't do it, or I'm out of it, or they trying to figure out how to transfer you or get rid of you or let go of you, which is interesting, you know. But I think, yeah, I think companies and organizations, institutions recognize that they are still trying to save themselves at the end of the day, and they would
Hmm.
rather lose a soldier or two than to just fall completely.
Yeah. And that's ultimately protecting money. That's the little
Yeah.
focal point there.
It's not about protecting people a lot of the time. Sometimes it
Hmm.
is, but it's usually about protecting like the integrity of a thing, not necessarily people.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Um, so what can history teach us about the boundaries we need today?
I Something I say a lot is that the rules are fake, do you? I think that's a lesson that I have learned from history. I think there are other lessons to learn as well. But I think from the standpoint of being like a black woman,
Hmm.
like historically, socially, from a cultural perspective, watching how women have navigated, and I'm not, you, I'll just put it like this. Watching how women have navigated or have been told they have to navigate, a lot of times you feel like you have to be a certain way, you have to ascribe to certain things, you do this, do this, do that. And then it's like you watch how history has shown that sometimes you can do all that and it's not enough. Or it doesn't
Right.
get you where you're trying to go. Or it doesn't protect you in the way you thought it would. Or it doesn't put you ahead how you thought. Um, I think there's a lot of different things that we can take from history. One, I would say, is that the rules are fake. I think the other thing that we can learn from history is that there's power in numbers. I think that we have, as a people, I think as Black people, as people in the world, everybody's very comfortable with how they live. And I think, you know, the issue we have now is that we don't have a lot of self sustainability.
Hmm.
Like you can have a boatload of money, right?
Yeah.
You don't have access to like um natural resources.
Hmm.
At best you just have access to a lot of money, right?
Right.
So I think that sometimes people don't recognize the power they have or they possess, or they don't want to tap into that because they feel like should they challenge the people, the places, the things, institutions that give them the power, they don't have anything left. I think that what I would hope more people would realize is that every person that you learn about that has challenged the system has also lost things.
Right.
Not like they're not losing things, you know, like, you know, I'm just gonna say MLK, right?
Hmm.
You know, I'm just gonna say MLK. He lost his life. Malcolm X lost his life. When you think about, you know, like Nat Turner, people are losing their lives. We're thinking about, oh, I'm gonna lose my job. People are losing their lives to fight for our rights. You know, all it took was one regular person to get fed up and say enough is enough, right?
Right.
Um, but also I think it took them strategizing and mobilizing with other people, right, to get things done. Um, I don't know that people always realize the power that we have in numbers in doing that, and they're recognizing even if you do lose a thing, one, okay, if you lose a thing or even if you lose your life, it's not in vain, and two, honestly, the work still needs to be done.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I think it's a difficult thing to navigate. It's something that I think about a lot, and I won't say that I always get it right, but it is something that I at least think about, and I'm always thinking about like, okay, so what can I do to like, what can I do to do my part, you know? And I think for me,
Well,
like just having conversations like this is a way that we do it. At least you're bringing awareness, you know, You're challenging the way people think. You're giving people the space and the opportunity to feel comfortable and to know that it's okay to think these things because they are things that are affecting us and they're important to be thinking about.
Another part of history that seems to be repeating is when we start to invest in our own communities,
Yeah.
they have a way of dismantling it or killing leaders.
Yeah.
Um, like they don't necessarily want us to have that togetherness, and I feel like that's something that we have to continue to mob through. Like just
Yes. Yes.
how
Yeah.
does that look? You know, we just have to invest in our communities. And I was watching another person's kind of like podcast, and it was interesting the points that they made, how, and we all know this, that other communities have, you know, that they invest in each other and stuff like that. But one thing that I'm noticing, that's a continued trend, is that when we finally have something, we take it out of our community and we put it somewhere else instead of, you know, staying for the long haul within us and then slow doing that slow build. That's something that I would love to see change. I don't know, like I that's my intention. So if I ever have like something that is like a booming business or something like that, I plan on keeping it in our community just to show people like, hey, we could
Yeah.
have this here.
Yeah.
Now let me invest in somebody else's, you know, business so that we could build in that way. Everything doesn't have, and that's the other part too. I was talking about like the music business and the industry with a friend, and um capitalism is just like, how can I figure out how to make more money? And then sometimes it's not the case of making more money. It's about just the longevity within our culture, and that's something that I wish we could change as a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is that when Black people reach a level of success, there's always somebody trying to offer them something better than what they have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people in general, and this is Black, white, whoever, everybody's not going into business for the sake of making things better for the community.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going into business for the opportunity that it presents. And so I think, you just have to be real and understand that everybody's not trying to do the work
Yeah.
of building community. Some people are looking for the opportunity. They're looking for a Shark Tank to buy them out. And that was the dream, right?
Enrich themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I think individualism is killing us.
Yes.
Like the all the self, I need me, my little family, my little corner, my little whatever. I think that is like that's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but I think that kind of ties into what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Um, I think the people who want to stay in the community truly do, but I think the
Mm-hmm.
people that leave, like I don't know that they ever really wanted to be there to begin with. I also
That's
think a
real.
lot of Black folks, they enjoy proximity to whiteness. They want to be in certain spaces. They want to be in certain spaces. They're doing this to have access in certain ways, and if that's you, do you. But I think we have to, be honest about that. What I will say is that, I believe that platforms like this can ultimately teach you though that like respectability politics do not get you anywhere. Proximity to whiteness does not get you anywhere if the people don't actually like who you are. Like it doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter where you take your resources, it doesn't matter what you do with the things you have if the people do not actually like you or care for you.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you make more money than them. It doesn't make you immune to anything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so my hope is that more Black people will come to that realization. I don't know that we have come there as a people. Honestly, I think that idea is really, really new in our community because for a long time, that was how we were taught to get ahead. It's like, or at least you were taught that you'll be more safe that way. I think
Mm-hmm.
another part of it too is like, okay, you have the people that come from slavery. You live through Jim Crow, you live through sharecropping. Finally, you have schools and accessibility. The way you're taught to be able to leverage and manage is to get educated and get away, to get out, to move away, to get somewhere else, right?
Right.
It, but I think we got lost. We we taught the move somewhere else, but we didn't teach move somewhere else and each one teach one. So now
Right.
everybody's trying to get somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that I can't even say that I think that that's everybody's fault, but I do hope that more people have the revelation that that is only half the battle. Because a lot of times what we find is that we get in the places, in the spaces, you've done all the things, you've gone to school, you have the degrees, you have the pedigree, you have the resume, you live in the communities and you're still not being accepted. You're still not being appreciated. You're still not being protected. You're still not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like this young boy in Mississippi, they gonna say it's foul play. You got one boy, one black boy in this picture in Mississippi. I don't know
Yeah.
where they are, but I don't, I haven't even looked much into the situation to be able to speak too much about
Mm-hmm.
it. But I mean, from
Yeah.
my first assumption would be you live in a community where you all are trying to, you want to live somewhere. You're thinking you're escaping it by being X, Y, and Z, but it's still Mississippi at the end of the day.
It sure is.
It's still Mississippi. My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather is from Iuka, Mississippi. It's still Mississippi at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what your parents do for a living. Until the mindset of the people that are looking to do us harm changes, that proximity does not do anything.
Yeah, I think our community definitely needs to heal. I don't know how long that's gonna take. And like this has been a thing going on for like centuries at this point where people want to stand close to whiteness, but it's a slave mindset mentality. But to your point, like it's just kind of like we have to build that community within ourselves, but we also have to understand everybody isn't like ready for that, like you just said. I don't know, like you can move as far as you want, but if you don't have the right people around you, it's just you open for a shot. So it's
Mhm.
sad though. It definitely is sad.
Yeah, prayers for the family. Prayers.
Yeah. Um, how has music helped people name what they were experiencing long before society had the language for it?
So the first example that I think about is Negro spirituals, but I think that there has been countless examples of how music has been used, how music has told stories that we couldn't just have in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But Negro spirituals are what I think about from the initial question. Um, there was a spiritual that we used to sing in college. I've been buked and I've been scorned. To say that you've been buked and scorned, like that's deep.
Yeah.
And so and you think about the context of that, it's like as a slave, I mean, you quite literally have been buked and scorned. You may be
Mm-hmm.
sold away from your family. If you try to escape or you disobey master, you talking about, beatings, lynchings, whippings, feet getting cut off, all types of just ridiculousness that people had to endure.
Right.
Um, but I think that those songs, they offered a level of encouragement, but I think they're a part of history because they preserve the truth of what was happening.
And through art.
Yeah, and through art,
Yeah.
and in such beautiful ways, in such beautiful
Mm-hmm.
ways. And I also think about like folklore and like, how songs and folklore are kind of like in tandem because they tell a story that's passed on from generation to generation, right? And so even if you don't have the physical proof, like we don't have pictures of, slavery before the 1850s, 60s, right? But we
Right.
know what exists because of songs and chants and ring shouts and all of these traditions, that have been passed down to tell the story, right?
Right.
I think that over time, um, and past that moment, like once you get into like the aspect of like recording being an actual thing, I think artists for a long time, and not even just black artists, but just artists in general and people in general, always use art forms to tell the story of what they're experiencing. We
Mm-hmm.
know that art always explains and tells the story of a culture. So I
Right.
think that music, especially puts to words to what people have experienced, the hardships, what's happening in the world around them, even if it's just, very simple things, day to day things that are happening. But I think it's a great tool to just provide a level of imagery of like what somebody was going through 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I think, it's unfortunate that access is being, that people are fighting so hard to like take away our access to knowledge and books and banning books and, trying to erase history. But I think music and the arts are powerful in the sense that they still tell the story. And even if you can't, you could take the book, but if my great grandmother taught me the song, she taught me the song.
Right.
You don't get to erase that. You don't get to erase it and you don't get to say that it's not true.
It was so crazy about this conversation. I was talking to my mentor, and as far as like it was something that she said that was just so crazy. So I'm gonna bring you to where I am. So I met someone that did a docu series in Colombia. And it was like a group of people that came from a certain part of Africa that um was caught through the slave trade and rebelled um against Spaniards and folks from Portuguese and stuff. And anyway, they went deep into the woods and created their whole entire establishment, right? And their way of preserving their history was through art, music, the African drumming, the way that they cook their food, um, hair, you know what I mean? Like the way fashion. So it was just so interesting when I brought this to her attention. She was just like, man, what's really crazy as far as like documentation and words and stuff like that. That's more of a Western mindset. Like a lot of cultures hold their history through like forms of art, music, and like fashion. So it was just kind of a cool thing to kind of like stumble upon. Like it's like, dang, we really don't need written literature because like to your point, we still hold our truth through like forms of art, like different forms of art, music, and food and stuff like that. So I thought it was just a cool thing to realize, like, man, having written literature is cool, but we really don't need it.
It's interesting you say that. Wow, I just lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second, Joe.
Okay.
Take this out, okay. Um, it's interesting that you say that. I think that a lot of like Western culture, Western society thinking revolves around things that are like factual. Like everything is like you have to be able to prove it. You got to be able to prove it. You got to be able to prove it. You can't
Mm-hmm.
prove art. You can't prove music, right? Okay, from a theory
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, yes, right. Is it a diminished third? Cool. Like, okay, you
But
can.
that's even Western.
But even still, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's still
Yeah.
Western. When you get into like ethnomusicology and you're thinking of music from a cultural standpoint, those are not things you can prove. Like if you're talking about like tritones and what is that in the music in India where it's like it's not quite, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's
Where, y'all, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
But
Yeah.
like you can't. So like on my keyboard, I can't prove
It's
that.
kind of tonal, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then it's like they have pitches that are like in between our pitches. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got 12,
It's a different scale,
yeah,
different
like we got
yeah.
12, but they got pitches in between each of our half steps. They have pitches in between that. And so like, some people will say, "Oh, you can't prove that." But it's like just because it's not written in the way that you understand it or the way that you collect information or the way that you receive information does not mean that it is not a factual thing. It does not mean that it is any less effective or it is any less crucial or important to history or the framework of a people. And so I think a lot of times so much of what we see in the world is like, is it a fact or is it not? And like sometimes there
Yeah.
are things that really don't fall in either one of those categories, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make it not a thing because it's not in those, black or white. Everything is not black and white.
I think they make it so rigid because and this was another point that my mentor made. They use documentation to rewrite history. So they want to find ways to diminish or like um kind of minimize like another culture because they see themselves as superior, but really Um, I will. Okay, so to your point about let's say a different culture that has a different tuning set, like they understand the spiritual elements of it. And I was talking about this on the last episode, how certain frequencies is actually healing to the body. Like they take I did okay. So look, I did this gig. It was Indian based. And I was listening to their music and I was like, man, it was by far bumping, but what made it so like resonant in a way was the fact that it was in a different tuning. The vocals were super beautiful. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but it was just I was just so engaged in that. Like I'm like kind of going off on a tangent on it, but it's just I think it's cool. I think we should definitely embrace different cultures, and that's something that is not really promoted and pushed here because it's I I don't know, it's like this box that I want to say the mass have a hard time kind of pushing themselves out of.
Mass have also been conditioned to believe that that's the only way that you can operate
Right.
and ingest information as well. So that's the best. Like half of the battle is you have to fight people to be able to think in a different way, not
Mhm.
recognizing that they've been conditioned to think the way that they think and that there are other ways to think.
Right. Uh, it just makes me think of like conspiracies and stuff like that too.
Mhm.
Um it's a blessing and a curse thinking outside the box because you find yourself in a loophole like you want to know the truth. And I said this too, where it's like I was talking about, I gave this visual saying like I just want to find different things and just have like stick stuff together and like find the whole big picture, but it's hard to find that when we are being led by a group of people who wants to keep hitting the reset button. Um, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever find like the full truth, but I can't wait for the day.
Yeah. I mean, in the meantime, we may not find it all, but at the very least, we're trying. And, your platform is helping people to get on that path, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's half the battle. Like, you're trying and you're creating a space for other people to learn so they can try and start their journey or further their journey. That's all we can do at the end of the day. We may not cure it. I think to me that also I think that Western ideology of like we got to cure it, we got to fix it, we got to figure it out, it's like we navigate it as we navigate it with the tools we have. We
Mm-hmm.
believe that we'll find the resources, the people, the places, the things that will take us a step further. We take our community with us, but slow motion is still motion. Progress is progress. It's not about
Right.
a final destination. It's just about being better than you were yesterday, making sure that someone else has the understanding and you yourself, being empowered and building community around, a better understanding and building a better life for people. Like
Yeah.
that's success. Like, and also, I mean, we don't know the future. So,
That too.
you know, yeah, you
I
don't know the future, but
the
yeah,
part that I want to add on too is going to different countries. Music holds, like we said, music holds a lot of history, a lot of language in there, and I feel like my next step would be traveling and learning about a culture, learning about their music, where
yeah,
they came from, where they're trying to go. Um, yeah, I think that's the big part, and like people are kind of afraid and it's like they're putting in kind of like because we're going through all these wars and crap like that, it's kind of people are wary of traveling and stuff, but
yeah.
I think that's my next step, like
Yeah.
going
And
somewhere
the
else.
musicology, I see that for you.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. I can't wait to
Yeah.
it's on the way. um Dang, this is the last question, girl. What does it look like to build communities where people have room to breathe?
Um, I think the first step is creating space and dialogue for people to talk about, different experiences, creating an environment that's welcoming that allows people to do that. I think sometimes we get passionate and we might get frustrated when people aren't where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it takes just kind of like standing where you are in love. I don't have to tell you off. I don't have to chew you out, but I'm standing where I am and I'm waiting for you to come to where I am. I don't
Yeah.
have to turn you off in the midst of trying to get you here because I can't get you here if I've turned you off.
Right.
But I think is creating the space, is creating opportunities, is finding other people that are doing the thing that you're doing, is having conversation. I think for me, honestly, a lot of what I've learned, it comes from reading, but it really comes from just like talking to my peers. As crazy as it might sound, some of it I learned from social media. And I'm not saying get your information from there, but just using different platforms to let you see different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Using different spaces to let you see different things, engaging with different people, traveling. Um, but I think a lot of it, I think for me, and I think in general, is conversation based because sometimes you can read a thing, like, okay, let's say you go to college, you read information, this is the required text, you're writing a paper about it. That could become your ideology just because you read the text, right?
Right.
Because that was the information that was given to you. However, if I have a conversation with somebody who challenges my perspective, now I have a new awakening about said topic, said experience. So just being able to like talk and engage in dialect, and dialogue, not dialect, in dialogue, I think is a way. Um, I think not getting frustrated or trying your best not to get frustrated. When you feel like you're frustrated, you're about to burn out, taking the break you need, recognizing that it is a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Finding community, having faith, keeping your faith renewed. Because if you want to see a change, it's not something that's going to the changes we're looking to see, whether Trump became president or not, they weren't about to change. You know what I'm saying? That it was
Overnight. Yeah.
on in 4 years, even if Kamala was president. The changes
Mm-hmm.
that we're looking to see are long-term changes. There's obviously going to be a wealth of work to be undone should he not become president again. I mean, it's giving that he's trying to be a dictator and just be in office forever. Hopefully not, right? But
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how things, end up, I would say him being president definitely showed us how united we weren't. And it showed us how much work we had to do. I feel like being real, I was blind when Obama was president. I didn't realize that there was so much hatred in the world for Black people. I did not know that. I came to Howard, the year after he got elected. I'm like, oh, it's Black. I'm in a chocolate city, Blacky Black. Oh my God. And it's like we grew up in the 90s. I feel like, proud of being in USA and
Yeah.
all it like you grew up in this era, you watching The Color of Friendship on Disney Channel, and you thinking like all this stuff is eradicated and we made it. And I feel like Trump became president the first time, and it was like, okay, they took us back. But now the second time, I'm like, I mean, he's taking us back, but at the same time, I'm like, no, people were very much there. We were just ahead. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it has exposed a lot of like blind spots that we had separated ourselves from. But I think it kind of goes back to that conversation earlier. You can't necessarily just like move and leave from said situations. You have to work through them. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it just takes having the mindset that like with faith, we're gonna move through it however God sees fit. We don't have to sit back and just allow things to happen to us. Like I don't believe in spiritual bypassing. I don't believe in, okay, well, God is gonna have his way while I just sit here and I don't do nothing about it. I'm by no means, I don't practice that. I don't ascribe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that we have to have faith that God will move. We can, while we pray our prayers and we do the work, we get in the field to do the work and to help other people, navigate this space to do the work and move us further.
One thing that I want to like I was kind of in talks about it, but one thing I for sure want to do is bring it to HBCUs and definitely the environment of marching bands since that's where we started, as
Yeah.
far as like a communal base.
Yeah.
Um, Having those talks in those settings,
Yeah.
because yeah, like I mean, I would even say by growing up in the DMV, there's some things that man, when I came back to Memphis, it was a total culture shock.
Girl,
It was a slap to the face
can't
because
even imagine.
I had like a certain type of, I don't know, my walk was like, like why people like us? What you talking about?
Yeah.
And when I came down
Fuck with a
here,
shield up here, but when you leave here, you recognize
it's not like that.
not like
Yeah.
that. Like you better put 3 more shields on you once you get up out of this.
Mm-hmm.
In this specific part, like I ain't talking about Cumberland. I'm not talking about Mason Dixon line out of this little jurisdiction.
Yep.
Y'all know what I'm saying. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
you better put on 3, 4 more shields and bring some oil, as you walk because yeah,
Texas was by far the worst for
girl.
me, but but like man, well because it's like I thought it was crazy. Like when I first moved back to Memphis, like I thought it was beautiful as far as like the music history and like what it holds here is very rich.
Yeah.
But I thought it was wild to see the defeated spirit of like, but I understood after staying here long enough where people felt like, well, where am I casting myself? It doesn't really even matter when like all odds are set. Like I'm gonna give you an example.
The remnants are also way thicker down there too.
Say it again.
I said the remnants are thicker down there
Oh
too.
yeah, for sure. Like I thought it was crazy when okay, so when I decided to finish my schooling here, like my undergrad, I was trying to find work and whatever, right? And I was working at this Irish pub. Now, Irish pubs are kind of different in the DMV, you know what I mean? But in the South, they was just really showing themselves. And I thought it was crazy how they made all the black people like I was a waitress, right? So we cashed out our stuff, but then we also had to cash out for the white people, and the white people took all of their tips home. They was on some shit like that. And I was like, so I'm the only one looking around like y'all motherfuckers letting this happen? It was crazy to me. So I was eventually I
The
ended up
1945 is going on.
and what was even more wow, I'm gonna even show you like how crazy it was. I let the manager know like, look, I'm going home for winter break. I did all the formalities, all that. I came back. They talking about I left without their acknowledgement. So they let me go to hire some white nigga. And I was just like, yo, this is crazy. So time goes on. And he really did that because they did it because they knew I was smart. They knew that I was outspoken and I was in school. Yet they were asking for other people, like, hey, can you
Elevation
bring
by proximity. Let's
man?
get rid of her, but she get us in trouble. She
So
put us
then,
on the
right. And it was wild because like I was able to confront. Like, I was like, y'all not gonna sit here and lie to my face, act like y'all ain't know. And then they sent the black cook who was like second in command to let me know that I was fired. And I got on his ass, and then I got on the white nigga ass, right? So then time goes forward, and he see me walking down the street. I guess he thought I was down bad or something. And he was like, so where you working? And at the time, like I was contracting in multiple places. I was teaching at a high school. At the time I was working at two different mega churches. And then I was working for myself, contracting for a couple of studios and like doing outdoor gigs and stuff like that. And he wasn't expecting me to be, on my feet like that. He kind of looked shook. He was like, well, bring your friends. You got me fucked up. I'm not bringing nobody over here. So now that you know that I got some money, you want me to spend my money in the establishment where you was robbing me? Crazy.
and she told you this
Lost your
or the
mind.
or the black boy messenger.
No, it was the white dude who owned the Irish pub.
Yeah, that's strange.
So
Yeah.
it was a full circle moment. So when you felt like you had your boot on my neck, you know what I'm saying, you could treat me any old kind of way. But when you saw that, oh, okay, she's established herself and she's doing well off, spend your money here. No, you got me fucked up.
Not y'all fired me. You thought I was about to come back. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know what made me go on that tangent, but we're
I
here.
mean, no, it's valid though. I mean, I think the thing is like that. This conversation is valid on every level. You know, on every level of employment. Okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing about it is, I think it's even that much more relevant at an Irish pub or in the
Mm-hmm.
service industry, because if you're someone that feel, and I'm not saying this is you, but I think, okay, I want to find a way to say this because I don't want to be offensive. I think that certain people, because of whatever they have going on in life, they feel like they are that much less empowered. And I think that I think that's another thing that we're taught. The more status you have, the more money you make, you are more equipped to speak, to advocate for yourself, to defend yourself. No, it doesn't matter if I live in the projects and I'm on Section 8, I'm allowed to advocate for myself.
Right.
And if I only can eat from food stamps, I'm allowed to advocate for myself. If
For
I'm
sure.
there, I'm also allowed to advocate for myself. And we live in a society that acts like success is the only way that you are allowed to advocate and speak up, or that's the only time that your voice is valid. And it's just like, if that was the case, then we wouldn't even have elections. You need every vote for everything else. Now all of a sudden, because I'm not in a certain tax bracket, I'm not allowed to speak up. It's like, nah. And I think, even just from a spiritual standpoint, I ain't never read nowhere in the Bible where it said, because you make more money, you better than me.
Right.
Like, everybody want to throw the Bible and everybody want to make stuff religious, but it ain't never said nothing about none of that. And I mean, Jesus was talking about the least of these. So make it make sense.
You know, I was told that once, like the last situation I got out of and like the whole big old legal battle and shit like that. Like, I didn't matter because I didn't have the money or the large influence in that setting.
And for that particular place to be saying that to you is
Same. I know.
I almost, I'm like, but insane.
Yeah,
One of my
but
homeboys be saying, you going to hell on scholarship. Okay. Y'all are going to hell on scholarship. Said what I said.
but to still like be in a space of asking about me, my whereabouts and shit. Well, clearly it's the opposite. You just trying to, and I think that's a tactic to get into people's heads to make them not as vocal. But I stood 10 toes on that.
You did. And look
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I enjoy watching the empire fall bit by bit.
Bruh,
Love to see it.
crazy. Man, I was actually about to say something else, but I went off the rails. So
It's okay.
I'm gonna just let that be. But I think it's kind of crazy. Like, no. That's what I was gonna talk about. But I definitely want to go back. To old stomping grounds. Go to Howard. Go to UDC. Kind of organize there. You know, uh, hear the voices of the student body, and then like wherever they feel snubbed or left behind, how can we make it better? Like I think it's crazy to be using, let's say, the same equipment or wherever the case is, when we can actually come together, figure out how we could fundraise, or how can we make enough noise to be like, hey, we deserve more, especially if you're utilizing us. Well, it's only right, it's only fair, but let's not continue the cycle of capitalism and this white supremacist mindset and treating us like the underdogs when we matter just as much as any other department or X, Y, and Z. So that's something I definitely would love to bring back, you know, especially as a soror and all that. For
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's important that like these conversations are had in different spaces, like,
Mm-hmm.
because I think sometimes musicians, artists, you have some that like want to be involved, from a civil standpoint. You have others with like, oh, I'm just creating music. Bro, like I'm just making music. I ain't into all the other stuff. And it's like, but it's like if you're shaping culture by the work you're doing, then like even if you don't want to be involved, you are involved. I don't
Very
think
much
people
so.
want to accept that. It's like we're all involved, whether you want to be or not. When it comes to your livelihood, your success, your betterment, and then it's like, don't get me started on if you got kids or you have proximity to children or things like that. We are all involved and we all play a role. It's easy to say I'm not involved, but at the end of the day, like your willful ignorance is still a response.
Mm-hmm.
Your lack of commitment is still a response. Like you are still connected even if you don't want to be. So I think it's important that younger people and just, people in different spaces that wouldn't traditionally speak out or wouldn't traditionally have platforms to speak and engage in these conversations are able to, because it really takes everybody being on board. It's not just, the poli-sci students or the law students, it's everybody being on one accord.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you, B. Thank you for coming to the Purple Mic, Music and Civics. Woo,
Wait,
woo, woo.
let me play it.
Um, oh, you about to play it? She looking for it. That's crazy. Well, why is she looking for it? Oh, did it do it? I think it canceled it out.
Y'all can hear that?
Nah, it canceled it. You probably got your noise cancellation on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's all good. I heard the beginning of it. Well, once again, thank you for coming to the pod. Do you want the people to follow you anywhere or anything like that?
I do. Y'all can follow me on Instagram at bbee.sings. And also, can I give a little shameless plug?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm a singer, songwriter, educator, but I also do playlists as well. I started a series last year called Playlist 2K25. You can kind of put two and two together to kind of figure it out. But anyway, it's a playlist of songs to feel, heal, and just help you navigate. And it's something I started last year because I just felt like we had a lot of just foolishness going on. Everybody was discouraged. Living in the DMV area, it was just real dark. You know what I'm saying? After that election, it was rough. It was wild out here. So I started that as just something to encourage, friends and peers. And it's songs that are, already accessible. The music is on Apple Music and Spotify and YouTube. But it's playlist basically just to kind of help you engage, but also just to help you feel good. Every song is not necessarily resistance, but I do believe that joy is resistance. So even, a feel good song is still resistance if it makes you feel better and it gives you the will to do better and to, be encouraged and to be in a good mood. So I just want to give a shameless plug to Playlist 2K25. The links for my playlist are in my Instagram bio. And once again, my Instagram is bbee.sings. Okay. Let me get in here real quick. Well, one that comes to mind is "Get Up, Stand Up" by Bob Marley. That was on one of my first playlists. For obvious reasons. Let me see. Another song that I really enjoyed that was on my first playlist is "Cheers to Life" by Voice and Precision Productions. I could send y'all some links.
Okay.
"Jesus Is My Help" by Hezekiah Walker.
Let's go.
La Brea by Alex Isley. Let's see. Let's get on another playlist. "I Believe" by Sounds of Blackness. Um, let's see what else. I think that's it for now. But yeah, those are some songs that come to mind. Yeah, but I could send y'all the link as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I recently put up a post and what's been rocking with me so far is the Backlash Blues by Nina Simone.
Mm,
Yeah, that thing, like I had to go and put it on the reel.
yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And the thing that's crazy is like the people are making the music, right? They're in the spotlight, they're making the music, but also very much like caught up in all of the social justice things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because like in our time period, you don't necessarily have that. It's like, okay, Beyonce could make Lemonade or not Lemonade, but like, Black Parade, but like, and it's
Yeah.
not even shading her, but like she's not caught up in the rapture like a Nina Simone, right?
Well, she's comfortable, but that's a whole different thing. About
No, yeah, no, but I'm just saying though, like you don't have a lot of artists in our generation that are big name artists who are necessarily, you understand
I
what I'm
do. Yeah,
saying?
because like if you look at it, if she steps out in that way, she's connected to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z is actually for the system that's
Girl,
like running us down, even though he talk
girl,
about being pro-black.
he's not. He's a
He's
businessman.
not. He's a
He's a businessman.
businessman.
Like, yeah,
And like
what
it's
I said. And y'all, and once again, I will stand on the hill and y'all
uh-huh.
throw tomatoes at me. He's a businessman. He's not for the
He's
people.
not for us. I mean, but he made that very clear. He bought into the system and he's making money like in that way,
When he put that
exploiting.
album in Target, I was like, I'm about to throw my phone. 'Cause I went to the Roots picnic.
Hmm.
And I know Jay-Z, like he had hits, right? But when I was at Roots, everybody was like obsessed, obsessed. And I was like, I just, for some reason, I just never quite connected with him and I couldn't figure it out. And then that happened like the Monday after, and I was like,
He's never really been for the culture though.
no, he wasn't. But
And like,
I don't know what it was for me, but like he just never did it for me. And I
mhm.
just solidified more why he doesn't do it for me.
If you actually listen to a lot of artists, especially DMX, when he
Yeah.
talks about Jay-Z, it's a lot of Jay-Z, I mean DMX. Now it's so many artists that spoke about how he he just robs and flips.
But I mean, but once again, when we're thinking about these people of influence, what was my end goal coming into the game? Did I come into the game as a artist or a rapper of knowledge or an artist or rapper of influence?
Mm-hmm.
Jay-Z did not come here to he came here to build himself.
Right.
He came here to and I think the people he appeals to are people that are looking to build themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said. I mean, some of his music was bops. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Them 90s, early 2000s,
Yeah, 2000s.
it was
Yeah.
bops. Like I will give you that, but you have to look at like why people came into the game and like what their motivation and intention was. It doesn't by no means does it excuse him, but I think for me, I don't get. I just kind of keep my distance from artists like that because it's like I'm not about that. I'm not about the change. That's not a battle worth me fighting for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna stand with those who standing on it. Even if they are standing in it and they can't stand in the same space as Nina Simone, if they're making a stance at all, to me, I can still respect that because I recognize in this day and age how much you are still, sacrificing. And I can appreciate you using your influence in a good way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Force people and to help people. But yeah, this goes back to that conversation like, why did you get in the game? Everybody's not getting in the game to help people, to move people forward. A lot of people are getting in the game for selfish gain and to move them and their family and their close knit community or to have access to whiteness and the proximity thereof.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna end it here,
That'll
sis.
do it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Purple Mike, Purple Mike. Like and subscribe. Music and civics. See you guys soon.
Yeah.